Last year, I composed the video, Stop Thinking Like a Human, with some assistance from Doug Michael. I am sure that for over a year since I composed that script, that many people are still wondering just what the hell I was talking about, even though I feel I described the basics of the process accurately. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Endall Beall, and welcome to Attaining the Second Cognition. I wrote the Stop Thinking Like a Human script about 4 months after I started working with Doug to produce the early videos in this continuing series. At that time, the information either confused or shook up a lot of people, and some were glad to finally hear a voice that was starting to provide explanations that made sense where modern spiritual ideas only sold wishful thinking. For those who have been following the videos and are reading the books, you have learned that there is a large tapestry to the reality that surrounds you that the first cognition world completely ignores and leaves people operating under the infection of the Beall virus no point of relationship with this greater reality. Some of you have revisited the scripts and reread the books and have learned that the information contained in them brings forth information on many different levels of understanding that one only sees when their own consciousness starts to expand to understand what was shared in them. Everything Gemma and I are doing now is providing deeper explanations in this process to increase your understanding and how to grow yourself. All those preliminary videos had to be done in order to lay a foundation of understanding for what we are sharing now. Had we tried to share everything all at once, it would have been too much for anyone to handle. So today, I'm going to fill in more blanks on what thinking like a human means in greater scope. Every one of us thinks. We think all the time. We don't even have to think about thinking before we think, because we all have a freight train of thinking that never stops running in our minds except when we go to sleep at night, perhaps, and that is only provided that we can derail this constant train of thought long enough to get to sleep in the first place. I'm going to provide a litany of examples of how humans think. Each of these examples may not specifically apply to you, but when I'm done, you should have a solid overview of what thinking like a human means and is under the effects of the habits of the Beall virus. When we get up in the morning, we think about the first cup of coffee or whatever else comes to mind to start our morning routine. Then we start thinking about what we're going to do next. Some read the morning news to see what's happening in the world, thinking all the while they need to shave or shower. And we think about what we are going to wear to work if we don't work somewhere where the uniforms are provided. We think about whether we have clean clothes or whether we did the laundry last night. We think about being hungry and what's for breakfast. And we think about morning traffic. We think about the weather. And we are always thinking about time. Thinking about time rules our lives. Sometimes we forget about time for a little bit if there isn't a clock on the wall or a watch on a wrist, but sometimes it's never far from our primary thinking. If we work jobs with deadlines, time is even more of a thinking problem because everything we do is based on a deadline, so the thinking about time is ever present in our thinking processes. Amidst this thinking about getting to work on time or focusing on time at work, we want to gab with our coworkers and find out what they thought of all the latest episodes of Survivor or whatever they think about the news. All this time, we are often thinking about how others are looking at us, and we think about how we are judging others. We notice if their makeup is wrong, or we think about their clothes being wrinkled, or whether they are fat or attractive, and if the thinking human is single, they are worried about their own appearance, or if they are attractive enough for the tall, handsome stranger or the cute, sexy blonde. Oh, do I have something on my teeth? Is my deodorant still working? Am I attractive enough? Will they find me attractive? Am I showing enough cleavage? While at work, we think about time and when the next break is. We also think about our jobs and our household chores and what mischief our kids are getting into. When we don't have something that requires our immediate thinking and attention, then we think about what we are going to do when we get off work. We think about who we are going to spend the evening with or what we are going to do with our evening, what TV shows to watch, movies to see, or video games to play. We then sometimes come along and requires our thinking and attention, and we take care of that, but as soon as it's done, we start thinking about something else. From the time we get up in the morning until we go to bed at night, we all think. We never stop thinking. We think so much that we don't know what it's like for our mind to be silent. This constant thinking was an energy feeding tool of the virus. Constant and incessant thinking of this nature keeps people blind and ensures that they can't focus on anything but the task that is in front of them, and even then, many people have attention deficiencies. When thinking stops for a microsecond, the brain picks up another train of thought and rides that train until another comes along, and another, and another. Everyone does this every day of their lives. Our minds jump from one thought to the next with a lightning speed, and we never think about how much thinking we do. We just do it out of habit. This, ladies and gentlemen, is thinking like a human. It is designed to keep you mentally fatigued and to feed the virus and its world of illusions with your energy, always thinking the illusion into place and keeping it there. People complain during this process that they can't learn to focus. Until you stop this ever-rolling freight train of thought in your mind, you will never be able to create the pure focus necessary to be a knowing creator. Buddha taught about the silence of the mind. What he was referring to was what happens when you finally fully stop thinking like a human all the time and finally attain the silence of the mind that occurs when you break this thinking habit. In order to break this habit of human thinking all the fucking time, you have to first notice that it is happening, which each one of you should readily understand after this presentation. When you see this constant thinking in action, you have to choose to stop doing it. You have to break the habit, for that is all it is, a habit foisted on you by the virus infection so it could feed on the energies you emitted by thinking and dreading and what-ifing yourself to death day in and day out all of your entire life. I will be the first to say that this is not an easy process. It takes will and determination to overcome the thinking habit, and it will be the hardest thing you ever have to do. But if you want to advance your Soika, everyone must conquer the symptoms of the virus in their minds, and incessant thinking is the greatest symptom one has to cure to advance. Until you can permanently derail this constant freight train of thinking taking place in your mind every second of every day, you will never achieve the silence of the mind that moves you into the second cognition. After listening to this video, I'm assigning all of our viewers with the task of noticing this thinking process within themselves. See it and notice what it does, how your mind moved from one random thought to another and the energy it requires to think about these thoughts and ideas and worries and concerns. Notice how fast they change and how single thoughts can barely develop fully before you're off thinking about something else. Then ponder how much of your personal energy you use up wasted on this random and incessant thinking, all for no positive good. The greatest percentage of this thinking is all ego-oriented. I hope I make a good impression so I can get that job. I hope his or her parents like me. I hope my girlfriend's cute little sister likes me or her brother. Such thoughts are the indicators of the insecure Hapim virus habits embedded in your mind, and there is no one on this planet that doesn't experience this except perhaps some Buddhist master, and even they are questionable to me at this point in my development. Reaching that state of silence of the mind, that point where you derail the constant train of thinking, doesn't mean you have attained the second cognition, but it is a mandatory step to getting there. One can progress along their road to understanding quite substantially before attaining this silence of the mind, but until one achieves it, their thoughts are blurred with constant thinking. The way to derail this thinking train is through discipline. This discipline is applied whenever you find your mind running in circles thinking about things and willfully saying, "Stop! Hold it! I'm not doing this anymore." Yes, this is a difficult process, and like any habit, it takes discipline to break it. How you break the habit is to become aware of it, then make the conscious choice to stop doing it when it occurs. I'm not telling you that you can live without thinking, but how much energy will you save and how much focus will you gain if you devote your thinking to things that matter and not senseless mind wandering like that illustrated in this presentation? What I am saying is that you don't have to live your life thinking random nonsense at 100 miles per hour every second of every day to the point your thoughts don't even connect with one another. The discipline required to endure this process, and have no doubt it takes marathon endurance to win through to the silence of the mind, will also help you develop the focus you are seeking as you focus on this task to discipline yourself away from this habit. It can be done, but in all honesty, it's a total bitch to do, especially at the start where our focus is at its weakest. The more you work at it, the easier it will get, but it will never be an easy process. This is why I insist that you have to stop thinking like a human, and this presentation has explained to you exactly how to do that. This is Endall Beall, and until next time, stay the course and don't give up on yourself.